It's me, CaptiaNifty, and I am back. I came back to my first ever community server to see how many locks I could crack in one gaming session. Turns out it was 15 locks and about 4 bases later. Once I'm in a base, I generally crack the rest of the locks from the inside out. For some reason I feel safer even if they were going to log in, cracking them from the inside out than from the outside in. Unfortunately, this base had already been raided, so tonight they won't get a veggie delivery. This base had 2 locks around the perimeter, however I only cracked 1, and it was 2 barns sealed with $4 locks. Once I broke in and I go through the loot, I tend to look through the tents, barrels, crates, cars for any other locks. I always like to check the preset numbers. If there's anything aside from the default 1111, I like to use that code in other locks to see if people are using the same lock numbers. Unfortunately this time they weren't using the same, and the defaults were set at 1111. When I got out here, I made a rookie error and I spent so long on this lock. It took forever.
Oh, I just cracked another one.
Some people say I'm patient, but I'm really just stubborn. It pays off sometimes because I came across this huge base. It was epic. I loved it. It had 2 locks set on the outside. I had a cheeky look through the window and I could see tents, crates, barrels. There's a truck next to me and I was so excited to break into this base. This base had the 2 locks around the perimeter. This one was at the back, so it was least likely that I would be seen or heard, so it made sense to start here. Once I got this one, the next set of locks all came off really quickly. I don't know who built this, but thank you. So once I had this lock off, I thought, okay, before I break in, I'm going to go crack the airlock at the front. Well, after I have a sneaky look at the loot, that is. This base had 7 $4 locks. They didn't exactly make it too hard for CaptiaNifty to get past them all. Once I was inside, before I looked through any of that loot, I was coming back with the vegetable delivery. It was only going to be at that point that I would treat myself to look through all their loot. It kind of paid off because the next lock was horrifying. This little shed that should have been a nice quick job took a very, very, very long time. I thought I'd give myself some good karma and plant some vegetables for the owner, thinking, yeah, this will be nice and easy. The lock took me over 9,200 spins. I was bored out of my brains. And that's pretty much the gamble with lockpicking. They can go from 18 seconds to hours long. Anyway, I wasn't going to let this get the best of me. I still delivered them vegetables. I cut down trees. I made crates. I filled them with the veggies that I planted earlier. And then I got ready to head back to the big epic base. I'd actually planted a secret little garden not far away from the big epic base, so once I was done here, I ran over the hill back to my garden. From here I was able to chop down a tree, build some more crates, and walk them down to the big base. And I was so excited to get in, because I'd waited hours to come back here and I was going to get to look through all their loot and see what was waiting inside. So I walked the crates in one by one, which takes a while because when you walk with crates, it's quite slow. But once I was in, I realized I'd hit the jackpot. I looked at the loot and my first thought was, bingo. These guys had loot for days. I can only assume this is not a solo base. There were so many crates, barrels, tents full of gear. I've cut it out the video, but I went through all those pre-dial locks to check what those codes were set at. These tents were packed. Some of them had building supplies, hundreds of nails, actually probably thousands, guns, pretty much any type of loot in Dayz was here. There was a barrel full of flags. It took me quite a while to go through all the loot. I got so excited I forgot to record the loot in the bathroom, which was actually all the good guns, like the VSDs and everything. I remember to record all this loot though, out here. This was a bit of a double-edged sword of a base, so I was super excited because it was the biggest and pretty much the most epic base that I'd found on my own ever, or with the team. The reason it was a double-edged sword is I was a little bit sad I didn't have anyone to share it with tonight. Sometimes these kind of moments are best shared with some friends. Nonetheless, I was still in my elements and having a great time looking through all their loot, being the loot stalker that I am. I went through everything. If a barrel had a lid open, I left it open when I left. If a barrel was closed, I closed the lid when I left. I pretty much didn't want them to know, apart from the veggies, that I'd been here. It's pretty much just loot for days. It just kept feeling like it was never going to end, because even outside of here there was cars full of loot, tents, there were empty tents on the roof, there was more loot in the garage outside. It was a lot. The loot down here seemed to be a bit more organised than the loot up top, so this was, as you can see, quite sorted. Just trying to put everything back the way I found it. But I was just having a great time here. I wasn't even taking any of it, ironically. I was leaving it all here. Okay, so I'm a bit of a noob and I tried to walk in the tent backwards. Yeah. I'd love to hear what other people's best base finds were. I don't know if this will be the best one I have for a long time, or if this is standard. It's probably standard maybe, I don't know. But I hadn't found one like this before. For this 18-hour session, about 2 of those hours were visiting a base on the other side of the map that I was going to say raided, but I actually just picked the locks on about a week ago. It had already been raided, so I couldn't leave them vegetables. I'd buried some nearby in some crates. I was really hoping that they'd repaired the base so that I could drop the crates in, but the base never got repaired, so the veggies just going to stay there till they despawn. I was super impressed with this base, but it was pretty much time to go. My duty was done here for now, although I do decide to come back once more before the end of the night. Oh, look at that, it's so good. I hadn't been playing all season, so the next base I go to, I didn't even realise until the next day that it was actually an admin space built for skirmish. So, probably wasn't the best idea to break into this one. I guess it was lucky I didn't actually try to raid it and I only dropped stuff off. I actually sent this to one of the admins. He's like, Nifty, that's a skirmish base. I was like, oh, yep. And because at the time I didn't know, I delivered vegetables. When I finished here, I felt like these deliveries just weren't quite enough. I'd only dropped a couple of crates off of these big bases. So I thought I'd go to the safe zone back to Nifty's organic farm that Dragacy built me this season and put it to good use. So after I locked this up, I drove back to my farm and I decided to get more loot. I got tents, I got barrels, I got crates of vegetables, and I decided to go visit a couple of these bases for the third time. The first time to crack their locks, The second time was the first veggie delivery, and the third time was this delivery. I just wanted to give them more stuff instead of raiding them. I was pretty tired as I'd been going probably nearly 15 hours by now. But sleep is for the weak. No, I'm kidding. I was just having fun and wanted to get this done. At the time, it was my biggest break-in. I do crack my record and I actually get to 25 locks in one gaming session before the end of the season. So at the time, this is the biggest one I'd done, so I thought I'm going back with more. I'm giving them more stuff. And so I did. I left crates at every entrance because I could. And here, I left in the barrel, the tent, some pumpkins, a fishing rod to go fishing off the jetty. Just whatever, really, whatever was left in the boot. Just all went in here. I went back to the big double barns after this, and I was so annoyed that they'd already been raided between the time I picked their locks and went to do this delivery. It means they were raided the same day. I also checked on this old base to see if they'd repaired it, but they hadn't, so I couldn't deliver them anything. So, would I do it all again? Turns out I would, because a week later I broke about 25 $4 locks in one gaming session. That was close to, I think, 20 something hours all up. It was 4 bases, one of them had most of the locks on it. Stay tuned.